So, Jane, Calypso Voices has been running for over 30 years now. You are the go-to voice agency in the media industry, and not only because you have amazing talent on your books, but also because you are lovely and you are so helpful when anyone has any advice. You're the fountain of knowledge. So thank you for joining me and welcome.
It's very nice of you to say so, and it's a pleasure. Thank you for asking.
No worries. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about Calypso. Can you just summarise the role of Calypso and the work that you do?
Calypso was set up by the MD, Chrissy Devaney, who was a radio producer and award-winning radio producer, and her favourite thing was discovering voices that hadn't been used, that weren't being used in the industry yet. And at the time, voice work was really a little thing comparatively, and not very many people knew about it, so it wasn't the big behemoth industry that it is these days. And she would find these fantastic, interesting actors that no one had ever used. She went to a lot of theatre, went to a lot of comedy, and she'd use them in her radio ads, and then would see them sort of taken on by acting agents. And she decided, this is ridiculous, let's set up a voice agency and then we can look after these people ourselves, which is what happened. And so yeah, that was in the mid-80s. The ethos was always good actors who can do the job, who are offering something that the industry needs. And obviously over the years, it changes so much and it evolves with the industry, what people are expecting from a voice agency. And although it's always actors, for us, it's always actors. The styles have evolved dramatically. When I first started in the late 80s, the go-to voice that everybody wanted was lovely dark brown, experty, fabulousness.
Yeah.
Go to Sainsbury's, it's marvellous. And, you know, that's what everybody wanted, and variations of that. And women were there to play mums, and that was that. And it's just evolved and evolved over the decades to now take much more notice of regional dialects. Comedy is used a lot more, quirky comedy as well, not just sort of mainstream, putting on funny voices. Impressionists are rarely used these days, always used to be used a lot. But ad agencies in particular always want as much versatility as possible. And it's great because it makes it much more interesting, and it means you can take on a much more diverse selection of people, and you've got more to offer. And let's face it, we talk to the actors pretty much every day. Well, we talk to all the actors, I'd say at least once a week. And it's just great to have loads of different voices and personalities on the books. So it just makes life a bit more interesting.
I bet it does. And talking about this kind of evolution, what types of voice work are becoming most popular now? Because it's not just TV, radio, it's computer games and corporate work. And it's expanding and expanding, isn't it?
Yeah, and animation, huge part of the market. And I don't know, we almost do more animation than we do anything else these days.
Wow. Which
is fantastic, because the guys love it. And it's huge fun, and it's great fun to cast, and, you know, and the end results are beautiful. The core is always commercials. Always, and that's fantastic. But yeah, animation, documentaries, corporate work, yes, computer games, and now voices for podcasts, voices for online advertising and VOD, and you know, all sorts of different parts that didn't exist when I first started doing it. What doesn't exist anymore, we used to do an awful lot of telephone answering machines.
Really?
Yeah.
I suppose,
corporate phone answering machines used to be quite a large part of the work that we did. Can't remember the last time we did one of those. Oh, and in-flight. Someone asked me the other day what we'd charge for in-flight, and I honestly couldn't remember. It's a good 15 years ago since we did an in-flight ads.
Wow.
I know. So it does change. It's changed hugely.
Yeah. And there's so much work there now. I mean, I would imagine you are run off your feet, and because it is growing, isn't it?
Yeah.
People are using voice and voice more. Look at Alexa and Google Hub as well. Voice is becoming very much.
Absolutely. And, talking cash points. And I went and bought some Nespresso pods the other day, and the wall spoke to me, which obviously freaked me out because I'm really old. But, yeah, it's becoming almost invasive, but good for us. I'm not knocking it.
Yeah, absolutely. For new actors who are watching and they haven't done voice work before and they're keen to do it, what types of fees can they expect as a voiceover artist? And obviously it varies depending on the type of work that you do as well.
I'm not going to go into it very deeply because obviously every situation is different. And there's a massive range. For commercials and corporate work and things like continuity, station idents, that kind of thing, where you're going to go in for an hour and do a job, your basic hourly rate is the only thing you can rely on, providing you don't get in there and completely nose it up so badly they're not going to pay you, which, let's face it, with any luck, it's never going to happen. But if you just think that you are going in to work for an hour and you are going to come out with around about 200 quid less your agency commission, that's the bit you rely on.
Yeah.
After that, who knows? Because it can be anything from another 100 quid or possibly 500 or 600 quid or a couple of grand or 10 grand or 25 grand or honestly, there is the sky's the limit, and mostly it's not.
Yeah.
But the only money you can really rely on is your hourly fee. Do not ever assume that you're going to walk in and do a job and it's going to pay off your mortgage.
Because people do hear these stories, don't they, of hundreds of thousands of pounds for actors who are, voices for L'Oreal or...
Yeah. And the reason you hear those stories is because they're so rare.
Yeah.
You don't hear the stories about the people that just about manage to make a living. I mean, I always think that something like voice work is... There are very, very few people who do that and only that. And the majority of people that we look after are working actors. So they're also doing stage work, which pays bupkis, or TV work, or they do quite a lot of corporate presenting, or they work for the BBC Rep, or some of them are. One of them is a chef. One of them does PA work. One of them actually works in an ad agency. But they've all started out as actors. You cannot ever rely on it unless you are in that incredibly lucky, very, very tiny top. It's probably not even 1% of the amount of people that do voice work. Those are the people that the Daily Mail likes to write about once every 2 years, where there's absolutely nothing else going on the planet. And they feel the need to talk about, this person's made £1 million, and that's just because of his voice. Yeah, fantastic, good for them. It's only them, more or less. And also...
Has that changed, actually? Did you used to get more... Because with acting, it certainly you used to get much more, certainly with commercials. Has voice work been spread a bit thin?
It's spread thinner because there are more people doing it now.
Yeah.
As I said, when I first started out, voice work was a really tiny, pretty niche industry. And there were probably only about 5 or 6 voice agents in London, and the majority of them were attached to acting agents. It was and also we've got this acting agent. So if you're with us for acting, then we have a voice division. Calypso was one of the only independent voice agents at the time, and there were just a handful. Now, I mean, I haven't counted because it's frightening, but there are probably a good 30 or 40 in London alone, all representing an average of, I'd say, an average of 100 voices per agency. And because there is now more publicity about voice work, that's sort of, as I say, increased over the years. And also because these days it's not frowned upon. That's another thing. In the olden days, actors didn't do voice work or commercial work. It was very much, oh, darling, you're doing that. Can you not get stage work? Whereas these days, everybody wants to do voice work. Thank you very much. And it's become a lot more acceptable financially, obviously, but almost as an art form.
Yeah.
Which I think it always has been. You know, you have to be a creative actor in order to do good voice work, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But now, because a lot more high-profile people are doing it, and doing it publicly, you know, out and proud, with very recognisable voices, it's attracted a lot more people to the industry, which is fantastic. Doesn't necessarily increase the amount of work there is.
No.
So, yes, there are a lot more platforms. There are a lot more TV channels. A lot more people are doing television and radio advertising. As I said, there is a lot more animation these days, which is fantastic. But it's not increased the funds for it. So what was a pot that was being eaten away by, you know, quite a small amount of people, it's the same pot spread over a larger industry, covering a lot more bases, over a hell of a lot more actors, presenters, broadcasters, whatever else.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same industry, the same size industry, if you like, but it's just got squashed and expanded widthways.
Interesting though, acting agent, there are hundreds of them. Mm-hmm. So by comparison, it almost feels like voice agents, there's not a lot. But
yeah, I mean,
obviously,
as I say, I've not counted how many there are, because I would find it, I think, probably a bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And there will be loads more. I mean, I've heard this week about another new one starting up, and good luck to them. I say that if you can make it work, if you can find good people, if you can find work for your good people, that's brilliant, absolutely great. We've always been able, you know, as I say, we've been going for over 30 years. I think that's tremendous.
Yeah.
And although the look of the agency has changed and the personnel have changed and the sort of actors we look after has changed in the main, we've still got quite a lot of people who were there when we very first opened the doors, of which I'm extremely proud, and we're still getting them work.
Yeah.
Which is
amazing. And they're evolving as well as the industry.
Yeah, exactly.
It is important to say, it is a different industry to acting. There isn't a spotlight, you know, it operates very differently. Mm-hmm. Producers and directors come straight to you with their work, don't they, and ask you to submit voices. So it is very different. Can you just talk to me, kind of summarise the process, a little bit about the process of how it works?
Yes. It's, although the medium is different, because now everybody's got a website, and everybody's websites have got their artists on, all with voice clips, so that clients can go straight to the website, have a mooch about, and, you know, if they've got time, listen to everybody. They tend not to have time. So they do contact us directly, either because they know us already, or through the website, or through reputation, which is lovely. And you get a brief. Sometimes the brief is fantastic and you can pinpoint exactly who you're going to put up for the job. Sometimes the brief is so broad it could be literally anybody. And our job really is to try and narrow the brief down, because what you want is to present a client with a core group of people who are absolutely right for their job, because everybody brings something different to the party. Everybody has a different style, and works differently in the studio. Every job is different. And what I want to know is, I almost want them to tell me the name of the person that they want. You very rarely get you're very rarely able to hone a brief down quite that specifically.
Or a reference is good, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to bombard them with 20 people, and of course ultimately it's their decision, but we want to make it as easy as possible for the client. So you get your brief, you put up the right people for the job, and then it's a case of negotiation and logistics. Where do you want them? When do you want them? What do you want them to do? What are you going to use what they do for you? Where is it going to go? How much have you got in your budget? We would like this. What are we going to do? you know, and then and that's the process basically. It's the same as an acting job.
Yeah.
But because it's the majority of voice work is more immediate, so you know we'll be casting stuff this morning for this afternoon. Mostly you get a good couple of days' notice, which is great, but it's pretty immediate. And the difference between that and most acting jobs is that if your acting agent gets you a job, usually that job is going to keep you busy for several days, several weeks. If we get our guys a job, it's going to keep them busy for an hour max, 20 minutes if they're good.
Sometimes 15.
Sometimes 15.
Simon is very good.
Yeah. Our goal is always, if you can walk out the door 5 minutes before your session was supposed to have started, then we're on to a winner. That's great. That's just gravy. Love that.
Yeah.
So it's very much a practical, logistical, you know, that we are part of the creative process when we're casting, which is obviously my favourite bit, you know. Otherwise, I'd just be doing admin. So, yeah, to creatively cast something is lovely, and to have your suggestions taken on board and agreed with, and to know that you found the client the right person for that job, and for them to call up after the session or drop you an email to say, absolutely bang on, could not have wished for a more accurate representation.
In my experience, people really rely on you, because I know when I've been sort of seeking for a voice, even creative people struggle to find the words to describe what they want from a voice.
Even creative people?
Even creatives in advertising industries.
Yeah. Oh, Lisa, they're the worst.
So trying to communicate to you what they actually need
is
very... Yeah.
And this is awful. This is going to make me sound like the biggest, snobbiest, grammar school educated dinosaur that there ever was. But it seems to me that over the last few years, creatives are less able to use language to accurately describe what they want. They're more likely to say, we want someone who sounds like the last person they saw on telly last night before they went to bed. It's so frustrating, because they don't actually mean who sounds like, but what they mean is who is the same sort of person with the same sort of profile, or gives you the same sort of feeling, but they don't seem to be able to articulate. What we want is a nice bouncy guy who sounds like your next door neighbour and isn't and is really matey and really good fun, and you might have met him down the pub. What they say is, we sort of want Josh Widdicombe. That's not a brief.
I've had that line.
You know? I mean, Josh Widdicombe is lovely, but he is his voice is very particular to him. That's not what they want. They don't want that voice. They want that sort of person.
That feel and that energy in there. Yeah.
So a lot of our job is dragging out what they actually mean from what they say, which can be fun and can make you want to beat your head against a wall. But you know, it's fine if it gets the job done. Then that's absolutely fine. And we do take an enormous amount of pride in how we take people on. We are a smaller agency than we used to be. We used to look after about 120 people. But it gets to a point when you think, we're not servicing all of these 120 people properly. And I hate that. I hate it if there's ever anybody that's not getting any work. Sometimes, this is the thing. Sometimes an agent can be right for one person and completely wrong for another person through nobody's fault at all. It's rarely a personality clash, but sometimes it's just the sort of clients that you get phoning you. So it's just the luck of the draw. And we're very lucky in as much as we haven't had very many people choose to leave us, which is smashing. But we decided about 5 years ago to become more boutique and more specific, so that the people we look after are properly looked after. And we would never ever take people on without having met them, because it's not, what your reel sounds like when you send it in, fantastic, but I want to know what you're like.
Yeah, which is so important.
It's vital.
Yeah.
It's vital. We all work at Calypso. you know, Nikki and I who are on the desk, Philip who does the accounts, Leslie does the bookkeeping, Chrissy the boss, and also everybody that we look after. We all are Calypso employees. We are sending our troops out as representatives of Calypso. So I only want to send people into studios who are friendly, cheerful, confident, amenable, calm, unflappable, quick thinking, smiley. And I know that when I meet them. So that's why we meet them. And also I want to know about the other things that they're doing. So when, you know, we put newsletters up on our website very regularly, and we've got a Facebook page and a Twitter page, as have most of the agents. And very rarely it's to say, so-and-so is being a voice in this. It's usually they're on stage doing this, or they're on this podcast, or they're, you know, doing a radio play. Because we look after three-dimensional people. It makes them more interesting to the clients. It makes them more of a rounded performer, in my opinion. That, like I said earlier, people who do just voice work, I think it's inadvisable. If you can possibly do something else as well.
What's the percentage of people on your books that are actors?
99%.
Yeah.
There's one guy who, tell a lie, there are two who are not actors. One is a really brilliant sort of presenter and DJ, and one used to be a commissioning editor.
Okay.
For a channel, but
Yep.
ended up performing in a show that he'd written and co-produced. Everybody else are actors. I think it's for the sort of work that we get, that's the only way to do it. There are agents who look after presenters and they get presenting jobs, and that's fine. My guys aren't presenters. They can all present, but they don't wanna. They're actors. It's a different thing. It's a different genre.
Do you think that actors can naturally do voice work, or, you know, do they need to do the training, they need to do the practice? Because I think actors assume that they can just be voice artists.
A lot of people assume they can be voice artists. Tube drivers, headmasters, telesales people. No, it's one of those things. It's you can be a brilliantly trained dancer, absolutely wonderful, and you can dance with the Royal Ballet, but you suck at tap.
Yeah.
It's a different rhythm. It's using the skills you've got naturally, or that you've gained with training, but in a completely different way, in a totally different discipline. It's not automatic by any stretch. And I've met people who have the most beautiful voices, even come to us with lovely reels that they've had produced, which you subsequently discover have taken 8 hours and a lot of editing, because in that studio scenario, when they're faced with a microphone, they freeze, they clam up, they don't have that kind of timing. They can't look at a script and read it sight unseen, which is a massive skill. They just can't do it. It's not their fault. Their voice is incredible. They will sound amazing on a stage. But put them in a studio with a mic, it's just not their happy place. And I very, very much feel that if something is that difficult for you and you're that uncomfortable doing it, stop doing it. Life's too short. There are other things you can do.
And you should be enjoying that, because you can tell.
Oh, God, yeah. You know, if you're in a studio, you've been in a studio with people who are having a horrible time and trying really, really hard.
And it's frustrating from being on the other side of that.
Yeah.
Because you just want them to be happy and enjoying it and doing well.
Yeah, and
as well as doing your job right.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Particularly in commercials, you know, you need people who can walk into a studio, smile at the clients, be given the script, read it a couple of times, go behind the mic, do it, be told how to do it slightly differently, do it slightly differently, get it perfect, smile at everybody, leave. Because you're a producer, you've got a client, you've got the ad agency creatives, you've got the engineer, you've got the client's wife who just really wanted to meet that person. You know, you've got a room full of people all at your back. You need to get this job done, and you need to get it done quickly, and there is money involved.
And then you go over that hour into the next hour.
Absolutely. And I understand if your client particularly wants a particular person, a celebrity, for example, and I don't include actors in that term because actors are actors. They maybe have celebrity, but they are not a celebrity. And just because you're on The Only Way is Essex does not mean you can do voice work. Although some people who are on that show, I'm sure, can do great voice work because they just can. You know, some people are naturals. That's the other thing. If a client wants a particular voice and they are prepared to spend the time and the money getting the right performance out of somebody because that's the voice they want, then great. You know, so long as everybody's prepared that it might not be an easy ride, that's fantastic. That's not what we do. That's not what I want, you know, our people to do. They are working voiceovers. I don't care if they've been in Game of Thrones or Outlander or whatever else. That's terrific. That's got them to, you know, to a point in their career where they do have some degree of recognition. But unless you can get into the studio and do the voice job, what is the point? You know, it's just too difficult for everybody, really.
Yeah, definitely. It must be quite difficult for you to kind of discern, like you say, you get people coming to you, giving you these amazing show reels, and you're like, well, how do you work out if they're actually going to be professional and can actually do the job?
This sounds really cocky, but we can sort of tell.
Yeah.
We can sort of tell. Only once, I think, have we made an error, and it was really a big shame because the guy came in and he was delightful, charming, lovely actor, really gorgeous voice, and he came in with a lovely reel and it was great. And I spoke to the engineer who'd done the reel, who I happened to know, and he said, yeah, no, it was lovely. He came in with all his scripts and he did them all beautifully first take, and that was great. It was only several jobs in when we'd had a couple of people saying it was really slow in the studio and seemed really hesitant, and we discovered that he was dyslexic, which, if you can get the script a day before so you can prepare it, is fine. But that happens so rarely. And he stayed with us for another year or so, and we really did our best to get as much pre-prep for him as possible. But it just got to a point where it wasn't practical, and he actually came to us and said, I'm just scared every time I go into the studio in case they throw me script changes that I haven't prepared for, and I just feel that I'm not being my best self. And so he chose to stop doing voice work, and it's such a shame. And that's the only circumstance when, you know, what you were presented with was not quite what was the reality, but through no fault of his own, and through no fault of ours. But I think generally you can tell. And what I do like to do, you know, even if somebody comes to you with a fully made reel, there are always going to be some other things that we want from them. So at some point in the first 6 months to a year of taking somebody on, I will always try and get them in studio to lay down some new material. And that's when you see what really and truly they can do. And that's always an eye-opener, even if they've already done loads of work for you and it's all gone beautifully and the clients have told you how great they are. I like to see it with my own eyes. I like to see what they can do and throw them things that are a bit left field, that they're not expecting, and just see how they get on. That's really good fun. It's a particular sort of torture that I quite enjoy. But, you know, I don't get out much.
You have to be sure, though. And actually, you know, when you're on the job and someone throws a curveball and says, actually, I need you to do it completely in this style, not this.
Yeah.
That's quite hard to kind of be able to, and they have to be able to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we really love the fact that the vast majority of our people, we can absolutely 100% with our hands on our hearts say to our clients, trust me, chuck them anything, they'll be great. You know, unless it's a particularly tricky accent or speaking at a very, very high pitch that's going to hurt their voice. Or, you know, we get that a lot with computer games. Really? Oh, boy, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and ADR as well. Background crowd shouting, that's vicious. That can be vicious. There are some sessions that they can only do on a Friday afternoon, so they've got the weekend to rest. It's
Just been thinking about that,
maddening.
but yeah, it makes
it's
sense, I suppose.
maddening if it happens when you're not expecting it, and you get a text from an actor halfway through a session going, "I hope I've got nothing after this because my voice is wrecked," and that's kind of slightly bad form on the producers in that respect, but.
One of the things that I've noticed is to get into the industry and maybe be successful at it, it seems to be people who've either got an established profile or they have something really distinctive about their voice that makes them stand out, and they tend to be the successful ones. I just wonder what your experience was with this.
We don't often take people on who've already got a lot of profile. I like growing them from eggs.
Nurturing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the most fun. When you take someone on who's not really done anything before and they end up being in your top 10 earners, that's the best thing ever. It's so much fun. And yeah, obviously, high-profile names on your website is great and really attractive and all the rest of it, but if they're so high-profile that they're always bloody busy,
Yep.
that's really quite frustrating. And also, we don't really like taking people on who have the kind of expectation that they're only going to work for jobs that are 10 grand or more, really. And also, experience is not 100% necessary. Training is great, but we have quite a few people who've never done formal acting training. A body of work is lovely so that you can tell your clients what they've done, because obviously you put someone up for a job and they go, "Oh great, what have they been in? What have they done?" And there are two sides of the coin, really. It's really nice to say, you will know him from this long-running show on TV, which is really cool and everyone's talking about. But there's always the really nice, "You've never heard of her, she's brand new, only just born, and you get to discover her, and honestly, trust me, she's fantastic." And, we have before said to people, we know full well they're an unknown quantity. Tell you what, if you're not 100% happy, don't pay us.
Really?
Never happened. Never. Not ever. There's no formula. There's absolutely no formula. I mean, we go occasionally to the graduate shows when the drama schools chuck out at the end of 3 years. That's really nice to find people in those. Although they're all trying really hard because they know there are agents looking.
Yeah,
Bless them.
very stressful.
But we go to a lot of comedy. We go to a lot of theatre. Either that our guys are in, or just for our own sheer enjoyment. And again, it's really nice spotting someone who's had 2 lines which have been inconsequential but have brought the house down, or their timing's just been great, or it's just, we haven't got one of those sorts of people. They'd be nice. But I mean, we recently took on a lad who, he's been in a couple of TV things, but very much in the background. He's not done any theatre yet, but he came in to see us. He's 17. He's incredible. He's going to be amazing. And he's learning the industry. He's finding his way. He's asking us heaps of questions about every single job. And he's so enthusiastic. And he's got so much bottle. And he's such a little self-starter. He's my little project. And I'm really excited about him, because I think this time next year, he's going to be doing really good campaigns. I think he's going to be doing a lot more telly work, which obviously nothing to do with me. But, I just think he's one of those people that you go, yeah, it's going to work for you.
Just know.
Yeah, he's got the talent and he's got the determination and he's got the spirit.
Are there certain things that you see in people who are successful, who are great voices, certain traits that you recognise and they are successful and great and amazing? Like, because you obviously see something in this.
Anson.
Yeah, in Anson. So there's obviously something there that you. Or is it a feeling? Is it gut?
It's gut. It's gut.
Yeah.
It's love at first sight. Or yeah, I'm just going to keep an eye on this one. if you're used to talking to people, then you tend to know who are the people that you think that are going to end up being friends of yours. You know, if you go to a party and you're in a group of 20 people and you've never met 18 of them, and there's just one that you gravitate towards because you have the same rhythm, the same sense of humour, the same perspective on things, it's that amorphous. You can't pin it down, I don't think. And we know, you know, Nikki, who works with me, she's been an agent she's been with us for 10 years. And before that, she was a visual agent. And before that, she was at another voice agency. So she's come from, you know, I've only ever worked at Calypso. And it's really great working with her because she has a slightly different perspective on things. And when she first started, I thought, this is going to be interesting. I wonder if she'll see different things in people than I do. But she's the same. I think, you know, agents are a certain weird breed of people. And we, you know, the first person we had in to meet us after she started, we had a really lovely meeting, really lovely chat, listened to her work, and she was smashing. And she left, and I was like, I'm really excited about this person. I definitely want to take her on. And I looked at Nikki and went, what do you think? She went, love her, love her. I was like, yeah, great, great. We are absolutely coming from the same perspective, and we, you know, we both have a feeling. We've never, I don't think, in all the 10 years we've worked together, differed on our perspective on somebody and whether we think that they're sellable or not, and if they're going to make it. So, I mean, you know, we're not miracle workers. It doesn't work for absolutely everybody, but and some people it works at a different pace. You can take somebody on, but before the ink's dry on the contract, they've been in studio 4 times, and you can take somebody else on, and it takes a few months to build up momentum. And some people it can take a year. After that, you kind of think, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? But sometimes all it takes is that one thing, and that just sets the ball rolling. And it's always dicey. You never know. You can never guarantee. I've never ever taken anybody on and said, I'm going to make you rich. That would be insane.
Yeah. Is there any specific training that you recommend, or is it really just down to the talent to kind of practice and hone their craft?
I know that there are some very good courses. There are no ones I particularly recommend because I think most of the drama schools, in fact all the drama schools now do voice training on mic, which is great. So the technical, the actual technical, how far away you stand, learning not to pop, I would assume everybody is going to be taught anyway. Apart from that, yeah, it is kind of practice. If you've got the, you know, again, back to the analogy of dancing, you know, if you've got the raw talent, the more you do it, the better you're going to get. If you haven't got the raw talent, the more you do it, the more you might become technically adept, but you won't have that thing that stands you apart from everybody else vocally, or that makes you sellable. And yeah, practice is the best thing. I mean, people that contact us who've never done voice work before, who aren't trained actors, who want to just have a go, I tend to recommend, and it sounds incredibly old-fashioned, hospital radio. Although these days everybody's got a laptop, everybody can go and buy a mic, so you can practice by yourself at home. But it's always nice to be able to practice with somebody who is used to hearing voices over cans or in a studio, because the sound of your own voice is always a big shock. And you might think you sound great, and other people might kind of go, great.
Get some feedback as well.
Oh, yeah. And to have somebody to give you a bit of guidance, or to tell you to maybe move away from the mic and, and go and try something else that might make you happy.
Not that one for you.
Yeah, exactly. Which is fine. Yeah. We can't all do everything, for goodness sake.
Exactly. Yeah. Voice reels. So should we be sending you one commercial, one corporate, one character, or one really good reel with lots of different types of voice work? What do you recommend?
It very much depends on the person. If you are the sort of person who can do loads of different character voices and is really, really versatile, that's what I want to hear. Because you saying it is not going to make it evident. So yes, lots of nice different bits that are quick and short, because I think most people will give a reel 20 seconds before it's, no, that's not right. Producers are the same.
Yes.
So grab my attention and make it snappy. If you're funny, make it funny. If your voice is beautiful and mellifluous and gorgeous and is going to make me need to lie down in a darkened room, let me hear it. Let me hear it quick. Don't be pretending to be somebody else. And that's the main thing. Your voice really, it really needs to be representative of you, and as quickly as possible. Because if I'm putting somebody up for a job where the brief is fun, lively, comedic, characterful, let's hear that. Don't let's hear you trying to be Donald Sinden. For the teenagers, he used to be really famous. There's no point pretending to, trying to do what you think an agent wants to hear. You've got to be very much true to yourself, because we're selling you on your personality as well as your actual vocal quality, because that's how we put you up for work. So get that across. And it doesn't need to be a pro reel. I disapprove strongly actually, of companies that set themselves up to make voice reels for people where they all come out cookie cutter, they're all the same, everyone's used the same scripts, and they've been charged 400 quid, and they're not getting guidance, they're not getting help, they're not having their differences taken into consideration. I would far rather you've knocked together a little reel at home on your laptop.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear music behind it. It doesn't need to be produced. I don't want sound effects. I want to hear your voice, what you can do with it, what you feel comfortable doing. And I think any voice agent worth their salt should be happy with the same thing. If you haven't got a pro reel, you'll have one. We'll help you make one. We'll guide you, we'll find you scripts, we'll write scripts with you, we'll go into studio with you, we'll talk about what your place in the market is, how we're going to sell you, and we'll tailor a reel for that. And we'll find you the best deal in the studios. Most of the London studios will do them for between 250, 300 quid, 350 tops, really. But with that, and going in with an agent, or at the very least, a friendly producer friend that you might have, you will get a proper reel tailored for yourself that will help to sell you, and that's the point.
That's really, really good advice. I think a lot of people think that they have to do that kind of cookie cut like you're saying, and it's not.
No, please don't. There was a phase about 10 years ago where a showreel company was advertising in the back of the stage, I think. And I get it, you want to be in the industry, you want to get an agent, but if you read an ad that says, you can make £60,000, please don't ring it up, because yes, you can, but you probably won't. And I knew exactly where the reels had come from, because every single script was the same. And it was boring as hell, quite apart from anything else. And those scripts suited one person, and everybody else they were wrong for. And it's just so dispiriting. And, actors when they're starting out haven't got the money.
No. What is the best way to get on your radar?
Flowers are good. No. There's no easy way. I mean, these days, people send in emails. It used to be bags of cassettes through the door. At least when we're being sent showreels via email, MP3s, it's quick to listen. And I have a big file next to my inbox called Not Yet, which is really lovely voice, haven't got a gap yet, or really, it sounds really good, not quite right at this minute. It's honestly, it's awful to say it, but it's the luck of the draw. But I want to hear what you can do with your voice. I want a well-written email or letter telling me a bit about you and what you've done. If possible, a CV or a spotlight link, so that we can place you in the industry and get a feel of who you are and where you've come from. Headshots are great. They're not essential. That's, it's not beauty contest, but some people will send you a reel and you get a picture in your head of what they are, and then you see their photo and you go, oh, hang on. Oh, they're only like mid-20s, but their voice is 48. That's weird. But it's interesting, and it makes my life more fascinating because I get to look at nice pictures of fabulous people.
For a number of the factors that we've spoken about, it is quite difficult to enter the industry. Is there any advice that you can offer actors who are really keen to get work and really want an agent?
Persevere. There are lots of agents who get lots of phone calls and emails, and if you are really, really determined, if you know that you've got the talent, and you know because you've been told that you have the talent, that you have the personality to deal with the knockbacks. I mean, let's face it, 95% of any actor's life is the phone not ringing. And it's incredibly dispiriting, and I have such admiration for anybody that decides to be an actor or a performer in any way, and who can follow it through, and who understands that there are going to be lean, quiet, dispiriting times. If you really mean it, and if you're really good enough, and you just grit your teeth and crack on, something will happen. Don't expect it to make your living. Learn something else as well. Have another transferable skill that you can use to feed yourself and put food on the table for your kids, or whatever else you need to do. But if you persevere, and if you're good enough, and if you're lucky, you'll get there. And when you get there, remember how tough it was, and be really, really grateful for it.
Brilliant. Jane, thank you so much for joining me.
You're
Absolutely
very welcome.
wonderful info. So insightful. So much stuff there that it honestly has educated me that I had no idea. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for asking.